Hi, and thank you for joining us for this episode of The State of Leadership Simple and Beyond. That is Robert Hilliard. I am Whitney Wiley, and we are here on Thursdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Pacific, talking all things leadership. And today we have an interesting conversation. It could go a lot of different ways. We've chosen a direction, I believe, right? We do have a direction on this, but the topic could go lots of different ways. I've seen comments on this video, on the content of the video, the person that was the subject of the video. And so we're going to talk about all of that. But Robert, I want to give you a moment to, before we talk about the video, just to thoughts.
What? Say that again?
You have any thoughts? So we're going to be talking about Brittany Peach, and she recorded her firing from Cloudflare. And so we're going to be talking about that, but I'm interested in any opening thoughts you have, and then I'll share my opening thoughts, and then we'll get into the direction that we're actually going to go, because I have a few disclaimers before
Got it.
I say anything.
My opening thoughts, or my opening salvo for leaders, is that you need to have some compassion when you're separating people from their livelihood. That seemed to be, and the audience can look at the video and make up their own minds about it. But as someone who worked in HR for many years, and someone who has participated in and facilitated many terminations, my stance on that was always, if you're separating somebody from their livelihood, this is what they're supporting their family with, this is what they're supporting themselves with, you do it with compassion. And that seemed to be missing from this equation.
For sure about that. So I want to say first, I am going to share a personal thought or two, but my personal thought or two is not about the direction that we're going, which is about leadership's approach to this concept, right? To firing, layoffs, mass layoffs, whatever. All right. That's the focus. Our show is about leadership, so we're going to focus on that part of the discussion, but I do have some personal thoughts on this, and then a couple of disclaimers, or I guess they're disclaimers. So my biggest personal thought is, and we've talked about this a little bit, I am much more engaged on social media than you are, Robert, right? And so I share some things that are happening in my life, not extensive detail, but some things that are happening in my life, particularly as they relate to learning lessons, right? I don't share for the sake of like putting my business out there, but I feel like I'm in the business of helping people learn and grow. And so being authentic about the lessons that I learn, I tend to share. Most of my lessons, I have a hair in my eye. Most of the lessons that I learn tend to come from, I'm big on experiences. So the experiences of my life, the things that I learned from them, and a great many of them come from my athletic endeavors, right? Or relationships. And so to the extent that I learn lessons about things, that's what I'm sharing. I know you are less interested in sharing your personal business on social media. So my thought on this is that I'm not sure that recording your firing and sharing it is the best way to go. And I just sort of, I don't know for the long term.
Let me jump in here. Can I jump in here?
Yes.
This seems to be a generational thing. Right off the bat, I saw that. I looked at, oh, she's younger. Younger folks, and I'm not, I always try not to make it sound like I'm, being ageist in any way. But that generation, they tend to put a lot of their personal stuff on social media.
And have at it. And have at it, right? It's like I don't pick on you for not.
Right.
You don't pick on me for sharing. The degree to which people share, absolutely you. I'm like, do you.
Right.
But there are consequences to everything. And that's more my concern. Not in general that she shared it, but it sends a message about who you are, right? When you share things. And a lot of the comments have come across as her whining. People get fired every day, sort of get over it, that sort of thing. And so, and that's not me. That's not where I'm coming from. Right. But there are consequences. And if you send a message that I'm going to be recording you, and here's another one of those disclaimers, right? I don't know where she's located. The company, I believe, is in California, but I should have looked that up. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe you could look that up real quick. I think the company's in California. California is a two-party consent state. I believe every state is not. Some states you can record without other people's permission. Some states it's a one-party consent, which is if you record, I guess you're the one giving consent. So that works. But I believe California is a two-party consent state, and I don't know if she's in California or not. So
Cloudflare is in San Francisco.
Okay, so it is Cloudflare is in San Francisco. She's apparently working remote since she got fired, seemingly at home, or at least a hybrid. So whether or not she lives in San Francisco or in California at all, right? Maybe she thought she could record or couldn't record. So notwithstanding the legal aspects of this, notwithstanding the fact that younger people live out loud, right? The consequences of the message that she sends to potential employers in the future is sort of my personal thought on this, is that I'm just not sure that sharing such a thing is the best strategy for moving forward with a job. So
yeah, okay, I can totally get what you're saying. I think the issue is with this is, and I've advised people on this, not necessarily coach them around this, but when I was mentoring people not too long ago, my thing was you separate with dignity. Leave. You can't, if you most likely you came in with dignity, leave with dignity. Don't make your departure, and I'm not saying this about her, I'm just going to say this, what I would tell her, don't make it a spectacle.
Yeah.
Right. You don't, because you never know where people change jobs and people move around, and your reputation is really the only thing that you can really carry with you. You don't want to sell your reputation. You don't know when you're going to bump into other people who may have moved to other jobs that you're applying for, companies that you're applying to work at. So you want to make sure you leave with dignity. Now, I'm not saying whether or not she did that or not. I think each person that looks at the video is going to see something different.
True.
It's not something that I would have done. Then again, my generation doesn't record everything that goes on unless you're being stopped by the police. That's a different thing. but we just don't do that. I don't tell people people that I think need to know my personal business are my friends and family.
Yeah.
I don't put it out there for other people to see and scrutinize. But she felt that she needed to do that. Maybe she felt that other people can benefit from it. I don't know her reasons. I don't know this person, and I'm not going to judge her for doing what she did. But like you're saying, those actions can have consequences if she's seen. I believe they say this in the video. She may be seen as a loose cannon. This is somebody, when things don't go their way, they may, lose it. They may record things. They may say things. They may put it on TikTok. I'm not saying whether what she did is right or wrong. I'm just saying other people may be thinking that.
Absolutely. And I also want to say, I'm not arguing that she shouldn't have been fired. Right.
Yeah,
So
right.
there's no argument from me. Robert can speak for himself.
Right.
There's no argument that she shouldn't have been fired. It's California company. California is an at-will state.
Mm-hmm.
But there are lots of protections for employees, notwithstanding the at-will nature. But I do want to say this, just because you can doesn't mean that you should. And going back to Robert's original point, do it with humanity, with some dignity, on both sides, right? On both sides of this. I have never been fired. I've never been laid off. I have worked longer, 3 times. I've worked a really long time. I've never been fired. I'll leave it at that. I have had the unfortunate experience of having to fire people. And I have been part of the decision-making process for others who have done the actual firing of people. So there are legal matters that need to be taken into account, and depending on where you are, there are different legal requirements. We're not going to get into those, and whether or not this is considered a mass firing or not, right? There are different requirements when you are laying off a significant portion of your workforce. And so, there are things to take into account. But what we're going to be discussing, and the thing that really got my attention on this was that the reason that was given for firing Brittany was performance.
Right.
And the title, what we've titled this episode is Blindsided Firings, right? Blindsided. Here's my premise and sort of reason for wanting to do this is that no one should be caught off guard about being fired for whatever reason. And I did a little bit of research about how you should go about firing someone. And interestingly enough, one of the things that came up is that you should not explain the firing, right? And in the moment of firing, but someone should not be unaware of why they're being fired, particularly if you are stating that the reason is performance, which is what was claimed here, right? That they were firing her because of her performance or lack of performance. And the thing that really got my attention, don't know if this is true or not. I'm not Brittany. I'm not her former manager. I don't work for that company. I don't consult for that company. Wish I had. Maybe they wouldn't be in the news about this. And we'll talk about the CEO's response. But and we're going to play a little bit of clip of the video as well. But they're saying that she was fired for performance or lack of performance. She claimed that her manager, her direct manager, had been telling her that she was doing a good job. And so there's a disconnect somewhere in this, right? Either the manager doesn't know what the performance standards are, she doesn't seem to know what the performance standards are, and to be held to a standard that you and or your manager are not aware of, taking this at face value. And I'm choosing to take it at face value because I didn't hear anything in the CEO's response that suggested otherwise, right? So that she and the rest of the team that were let go, I think there were 15, he said 15 people were let go, or maybe it was 40 out of 1,500.
It was 40.
40 out of 15, the 15 was 1,500, 40 out of 1,500. The 40 people were let go, seemingly without knowing what standard they were being held to in order to keep their jobs. Seems to me that there's a disconnect in communication. And I want to start there, that one of the mistakes that you're making, right, in firing someone is firing them without them knowing why they're being fired. And I want to make a distinction between that they know in the big picture as opposed to you telling them specifically at the time that you're firing them.
Right. So here's a couple of things with that. And people that watch the show know that we take things at face value. We, you know, if someone says, "Hey, look, I'm blindsided," we tend to take that stance. But here's the thing that had me raising my eyebrow, and I'll do that now for dramatic emphasis, was that she knew enough to be recording. So
She did.
I don't. So either she knew something.
But the blindsided was she knew enough because people who were being fired ahead of her
Let her know.
telling each other. They're telling each other, this is what's happening.
Okay.
Is my understanding.
Right. Okay. So here's the thing. Like you said, there should be constant communication between the leader, manager, how, you know, we'll say manager at this point, and their employee. They should know how they're doing, and they should know specifically what they're doing well and what they are not doing well. And I say specifically because I have had managers and I have trained managers in giving performance feedback and telling someone that they did a good job is not enough. You need to let them know what they are doing well specifically so they can repeat it. Whether it's, hey, look, the way you did this specific procedure is exactly how I want you to do that going forward. Do this thing every single time, or don't do this thing. This is the particular aspect of your performance that I'm having an issue with. A lot of managers, they want to say, hey, look, you did a great job. You did a good job. And people don't really know exactly what they know generally what they're being praised for, but they don't know what aspect of their performance is really, ticking the box for the manager. That's one thing. The same thing that it can be said for poor performance as well. The other thing that I want to throw out here, and one of the things that I find kind of interesting about this, is that the manager, according to this, Brittany, I think her name is, according to her, the manager told her her performance was good. Now, I don't know if maybe he didn't say he or she didn't say those things, and she chose to hear her performance was good.
That's true.
Or that person really wasn't specific enough with her performance so that she can correct any deficiencies that she may have had that could have been going on too. So there are a couple of things that I find suspect in this particular situation, and we'll never know because we don't work for this company. We weren't privy to the information.
No, we weren't. So let's play a bit of the video. It's 9 minutes long. I'm not going to play. Well, we may get through the entire 9 minutes, but not all at once. So we're going to play the beginning where she's being introduced to the people and where she starts to have a little bit of a pushback. And then we'll come back and have a conversation about that. So
Okay.
we've only done this once before. I think I figured out a better way from last time. So we'll see
Let's see.
if for some reason you don't hear it, let me know
Got it.
and I will try again. So here we go.
Hey, Brittany.
Hi.
Yes, I'm so sorry. My name's Rosie. I'm just joining the call. Nice to meet you. I'm on the HR team.
Mhm.
Hi, Brittany.
Hi.
Thanks for meeting with me and Rosie. We have an important meeting today. We finished our evaluations of 2023 performance. This is where you have not met Cloudflare expectations for performance. We've decided to part ways with you.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop you right there.
Sure.
So I started August 25th. I've been on a 3-month ramp, and then it was 3 weeks of December, and then a week of Christmas, and then here we are. I have had the highest activity amongst my team. Since I've started, I have had 3 contracts out, done a really great job managing my deals up until the very end that decided not to close last minute. So I don't think that makes a lot of sense for me in my Cloudflare journey here so far. Also, every single one-on-one I've had with my manager, every conversation I've had with him he has been giving me nothing but I am doing a great job. I have had great activity. I have really great meetings. I'm picking up the products very quickly, and things have been going really, really well. I make really great relationships with my clients. So I disagree that my performance hasn't been, I haven't met performance expectations when I certainly have, just because I haven't closed anything officially.
I hear you.
Also,
Thank you.
why are you doing this and not my manager? We've never met, so this seems a little odd that my manager has no idea that this has been happening and the director has no idea that this has been happening. So I'm just definitely confused, and yeah, I would love like an explanation that makes sense.
100%. Real quick, let me carve out the 2 threads. A ladder of why I'm on this conversation.
Okay. So I'm going to pause that here. So you've been there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
2 people that she's never met before. Her claim again is that her manager was unaware. Her manager has told her that she's doing a good job. Again, what are the performance standards, right? Is it closing a deal? Is it doing all the things that lead up to closing a deal, but not closing it? You have got to be clear about expectations for your employees.
Yeah.
They need to know what they are supposed to be doing on a daily basis. And I didn't check were these commission-based positions, are these salary-based positions, because maybe that makes a difference, maybe it doesn't, right? If you're on salary and 3, 4, 5 months in, you haven't closed the deal, maybe that matters. If you're on commission, maybe they allow a little extra leeway. I don't know. But what seems to be, again, taking this at face value, what seems to be missing here is any semblance of clear communicated expectations and what she and the rest of the people who were let go for performance issues, what they should have been doing by this point in the tenure of their employment.
Yeah, well, clear performance standards, that needs to happen. And it doesn't seem in this particular situation that there were, because she's saying, I did this well, I did this well, I did this well, everything is great. And from an HR standpoint, and from just looking at it, that would make me feel no one does everything great. The manager, I would be pulling that manager aside and going, okay, is this true? Because if you've told her she did everything the way she's saying it very, very well and great, the manager is the problem, because the manager is not giving that person clear performance standards, if that is the case, and not telling her, okay, well, these things are good, but this is what you're going to really, this is what's weighted more heavily than anything else. So apparently she didn't know those things, or it wasn't made clear to her. The other thing is, I don't want to beat up on the HR people because look, they were adequate. They went there to I shouldn't be laughing, but they were adequate. They were a little bit robotic, but and what they didn't do and what they weren't able to do, like you said, they didn't explain, exactly what's going on. Like, look, it's because of your performance, and that's that, and because of that, we're separating you from the organization.
And I wouldn't argue that these two people should have done something different, right? I wouldn't argue that they should have done something different. The argument would be that her manager,
absolutely,
if this was truly about performance, that her manager should have let her know that she was not performing up to standards, whatever those standards were. So, and that if you don't turn this around by X number of date, right, that you are in jeopardy of losing your job. And the other thing we don't know is that of the 40 people, how many of them report to the same manager she has? Right. Is this something that is across the board? And so we use this story and the video to be illustrative. It's not the point, right? This case is not the point. The point is that communication is important, and with a lack of clear communication, that's the mistake, right? We're talking about the mistakes that are being made that would allow something like this to happen, and a lack of communication, clear communication about standard performance standards, that feedback, making sure that people are clear what's expected of them, what they're doing well, not well, specifically, and failure to perform up to whatever the expectation is what would lead to them losing their job. And I just want to read this before you respond. And this is the CEO's response on Twitter, or the platform formerly known as. He says, we fired 40 salespeople out of over 1,500 in our go-to-marketing org. That's a normal quarter. Make note of that. That's a normal quarter. When we're doing performance management right, we can often tell within 3 months or less of a sales hire, even during the holidays, whether they're going to be successful or not. Sadly, we don't hire perfectly. Don't have a problem with that, right? I don't even have a problem with that. They are able to ascertain pretty quickly, which is what you would hope would happen, right? You do the best job you can hiring people, and then when it's evident that they are not going to work out, you get rid of them quickly so that you can move on. I'm assuming, since he's talking performance management, that there have been efforts that they have a process to work with people, to get them up to, she talked about the ramp up, right? That they work with them to get them up to speed, that they are identifying the areas that they need help with. So again, for whatever reason, and maybe this is her, there's a disconnect here.
Mhm.
Right? There's a disconnect. If they're putting this kind of time and attention, according to the CEO, into onboarding their people so that they are successful in their jobs, why would she be caught off guard?
And why is that a normal quarter?
And why is that a normal quarter? Right? But you know, he says they do the best. You know, we don't hire perfectly.
Doing the best you can, but doing the best you can is not getting better.
That part is true. Okay.
But you know, and look, I don't, you know, being a CEO is a difficult job. But you know, but doing the best you can is not getting better. And if it's a normal quarter, you should be trying to be better at that, so that you are, you can pinpoint through your recruiting the kind of salespeople that will be a good fit for your organization. You're not just using them as cannon fodder because it's a normal quarter. That's one thing. That's the one thing I will push back on. Is like you should be trying to get better at that. So you're looking at your recruiting process, and training. Absolutely. So we know, hey, look, these are the folks that are going to succeed here, and it hopefully shrink that number. So it's not 40 people a quarter or whatever.
Yeah, quarter over quarter, that should be changing.
Yeah, it should be getting so that right there is an issue for me. If I were consulting with this company, I'd be like, well, let's take a look at some of your processes here. But look, he's got to do what he thinks he needs to do to hopefully try to portray this in the best light that he can. So I get what he's trying to do here. It's just like in that are some things that I consider red flags.
Absolutely. Let me finish his comment, and then we have some comments from our audience that I want to share. He says, he says, sadly, we don't hire perfectly. We try to fire perfectly. In this case, we clearly were far from perfect. I would say this is the process that you've chosen to fire. So it is it sounds like it was perfectly done the way you guys have chosen to fire.
Perfectly
done. I'm just saying, right? The video is painful for me to watch. Managers should always be involved. HR should be involved, but it shouldn't be outsourced to them. No employee should ever actually be surprised they weren't performing. And that is the number one point here, right? He's acknowledging no one should be surprised. So, whether or not she actually was surprised, other than knowing that it was happening in the moment, whether or not she was surprised, big picture surprise, I'm tending to take her at her word, because there's not a suggestion from Matthew Prince of otherwise, but right. And sometimes underperforming employees don't actually listen. And you made this point, don't actually listen to the feedback they've gotten before we let them go. So there's that possibility as well. Or maybe he's trying to signal that without actually saying that about her. Importantly, just because we fire someone doesn't mean they're a bad employee. I agree with him there. It doesn't mean won't be. I don't know what this. It does. I'm just going to read the words. It doesn't mean won't be really, really great somewhere else. Chris Paul, and then here he is invoking basketball. Chris Paul was a bad fit for the Suns, but he's undoubtedly a great basketball player. And in fact, We think the right thing to do is get people we know are unlikely to succeed off the team as quickly as possible so they can find the right place for them. We definitely weren't anywhere close to perfect in this case, but any healthy org needs to get people, the people who aren't performing off. That wasn't the mistake here. The mistake was not being more kind and humane as we did. And that's something at Zaitlin and I are focused on improving going forward. And the rest of that I agree with him on, right?
Absolutely.
It's not that she was fired. The problem isn't that she was fired.
How they did it.
It was how it was done. And I'm suggesting, I could be wrong, that they fired her and the other 40 people and the other 40 people every quarter they fired, the way they fired them, intentionally the way they fired them.
Yeah.
And whether or not any of the other 39 this time, the 40 last quarter, the quarter before that, or any other quarter, whether or not they are getting the information that they need at this company, have no way of knowing. But the lesson, right? And I'm all about lessons. The lesson here for you as a leader in your organization is don't be Cloudflare. Don't be Cloudflare, right? Don't be Cloudflare.
Okay.
Communicate. Make sure people understand and that they're not walking away without clear understanding in the beginning of what's expected of them and how they are doing every step along the way. I'll let you comment, and then I'm going to bring up the comment from our audience.
Yeah, and just want to let you know, in my capacity in HR, when I was in HR, I was the support of the manager that was terminating the person, and only when we had packages that we would hand out to the person. But we usually didn't step in unless the manager was just totally iced over and just could not continue, which happens. Sometimes a manager just, no matter how well we coach them, they're just like, they don't want to do it. So they start stumbling and then we have to jump in and do it. But I don't know where this manager was in this process. He should have been, he or she, I think it was a he should have been involved in this, not just someplace in the background, or maybe they called out sick that day because they didn't want to do it and outsourced it to HR. I can't hear you. I think you may have.
I was like, you don't want to be around. He didn't want to be around that day. That was
it's like he had the suspicious illness that day.
So let me share the comment, and it says, many times as an HR professional, I see managers who do not provide accurate performance reviews periodically. I try to remind them that employees should never be surprised by a term based on performance. That type of term should make sense to them because the manager has been transparent. It's almost like managers don't want to give less than favorable feedback out of fear of not being liked. And that is a huge problem. Great comment.
Absolutely.
And I see that, right? I train managers a couple of times a month, and we're talking performance management, and particularly women, less men, but particularly women, sort of this need to be liked, not to be seen as the bad guy. And that is another mistake that is made, right?
Listen,
you are in the position that you're in.
Sell men short on that. I've had plenty of managers that didn't want to be seen as the bad guy.
They don't want to be seen as a bad guy. It's not necessarily that they feel they need to be liked, though, right? I agree with that. No one wants to be seen. Well, almost no one. I could think of a few people. And then another comment, as I think I'd made a comment earlier about commission. If it's commission-based, then that makes sense that that's a normal quarter. Okay. Either people are making the sales or they are not. So great comments.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that. Again, in the end, your job is to make sure that the members of your team are performing to the best of their ability. You hired them, you saw something in them, making sure that they have the resources, the tools that they need, right? The strategy that they need, the support and encouragement that they need. All employees, not just sort of, there's this feeling that younger millennials, Gen Z, need all this hand holding. And this applies to everyone who's in the workforce. We all want to know, to be encouraged and supported and make sure that we have what we need to succeed. I don't think most people go to work hoping not to succeed. That they don't want to do a good job. And so making sure that in your role and capacity as a manager, that's one aspect of what you're doing, right? And so you should be coaching your employees, making sure, finding out what they need, and helping them see what they need, empowering them to ask for and to improve what they're doing. But they can't improve if you don't tell them they need improvement.
Right.
If you're telling them that they're doing good, great, or you're not providing the feedback, the constructive feedback that is going to help them improve, chances are they're not going to. And so inadvertently, you can be leading to, their termination.
Right. And they should, it just goes back to giving clear performance feedback, letting them know specifically. I remember years ago, and this is, I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but I was doing something and I introduced the concept of SMART goals. And I won't say who this person was. I'm not trying to make anybody look bad, but this was a senior executive. It was like, it was revolutionary. It was like, wow, this is, I was like, this is not a new concept. Be very specific about goals and the feedback. But whether or not that person knew about it before, I'm sure they had seen it before, but hadn't used it because was not used to giving specific feedback and pointing towards specific goals when, helping employees figure out what it is they needed to do to be successful in the organization. That's something that should be just part of every manager's vocabulary.
And so the other part of this, again, not taking this at face value, but certainly this for you as a manager or as a leader of managers, making sure that managers are trained and have the tools and resources that they need in order to manage staff, production staff, right? And if I'm curious, I don't know, but if this is happening quarter over quarter, how many of the managers are losing their jobs?
Well, it's interesting because we've said this on the show a lot about how managers are promoted, and it's usually because they did their job very well, and then they may have had some kind of training once they got, or it was suggested that they get training once they became a manager, but then they're not held accountable for the things that they're learning in that training. So it's like, okay, it's almost like you're getting your driver's license and you do everything you can, you follow the rules to get your driver's license because that once you get your license, you're just going to drive the way you want. It's almost like that with some managers, right? It's like, I'll go to this class, I'll do this thing, and then they're not held accountable for anything that they're learning, or there's no protocol in the organization about how they should be managing. Not that it needs, not that it's one size fits all, but these tools that managers need. I remember not too long ago, I introduced a performance feedback stars, situation, task, action, result. I just mentioned it in a conversation with a manager who had been managing in an organization for over a decade, and it was the first time they had ever heard about it. And and I wasn't like, oh my goodness, you never heard about it. I was like, okay, let me tell you how it's done. But in the back of my mind, I was like, this is, you need these tools. As a manager, you need these tools, because when your job is, you're no longer making the widgets, you're
Right.
managing the people that are making the widgets. And so you need to know how to give them proper performance feedback so they can do the best job that you owe it to them. And so I was, I didn't let my astonishment show, I hope. But after the call, I was kind of astonished. This person was working at this company for, a long time and didn't know how to give performance feedback. And it came up because they wanted me as the, consultant to give the feedback to their employee. I said, I will not do that. That is not my job. You're not paying me to do that. And I said, and you don't want me to do that because you're giving me your power, right? So you have the power to do this. You don't want to be outsourcing that to me, an outsider to your organization. Even though I had a great relationship with this person, the person that we were, that she was talking about. But I was like, you need to do this. Here's how you do this. And and it was just one of those, I had that realization that a lot of managers just don't have the tools to give really good performance feedback.
And then so it's incumbent upon organizations' leadership to turn that around, right? You made the point, it's to do better, right? He's saying that, Matthew Prince is saying that they need to do better. Well, doing better isn't just, okay, this was painful to watch, we shouldn't be firing people in this way. What is leading up to that, and where is the accountability moving up the hierarchy of the organization, right? So it's easy to say, well, we can let these people go here. They are likely the lowest rungs of the organization, pay wise, maybe, depending on whether or not commissions are involved, but it's easier to let them go than other people. But the other people are hiring and training and sending these people out to on the front lines of your organization. So look at the other links in the chain, I guess is the way I want to say that, is to look at the links in the chain and not just the ladder, not just the bottom rung of the ladder, and look and see what else can be improved, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to get rid of the managers, but do they need improved training? Do they need improved tools and resources for the performance management aspect of their job, and not just, we're going to hire people and we'll decide within 3 months whether or not they're going to cut it and then let them go. This has impact on people's lives, and it has impact on their ability to get other jobs, right? When, notwithstanding recording and sharing on social media, right? Just the fact that someone's been fired. Now I've got it, you fired me, I'm looking for a new job, and I've got to explain that I've been fired. You said for performance. What is that even? And then what does that even mean, as I'm now looking for a new job? Absolutely. And you're going to say not eligible for rehire. It has all sorts of implications. That have you done absolutely everything possible to make sure that these people are succeeding? And if you're not, that's another mistake that you're making.
Absolutely. And I personally, I just have a gut feeling that she's going to be okay. in some way she's going to be okay. But the bottom line is, as an organization, like you said, you need to have something in place so that managers have tools to talk to their folks about how they're doing. It's owed to those people. You should not be blindsided. You shouldn't. And look, I know I had a boss that I had to go to him and be like, how am I doing? I mean, because it just got to the point where he just he didn't even do performance appraisals anymore. And I was like, hey, what's going on here? Well, you're not going to do performance appraisals. How am I doing? Are there things that I should be doing better? What do you like about what I'm doing? What challenges do you think I have that I need to overcome? I had to initiate these conversations because he just was like, I'm not going to do it. It was an odd situation to be in.
And now I had a training a few weeks ago, and a couple of the trainees were in class talking about how they don't do annual reviews. These are managers in the class, and they were not doing regular feedback of any kind. So no one-on-ones, no regular, because there was nothing at the end of the year to tie it to anyway. So, and then they were in class wondering why they're having challenges with their employees. It's like, well, they don't know what you expect of them, and you're not holding them accountable, right? And then you are disturbed, I'll just put it that way, by the fact that they are behaving the way that they're behaving, the inappropriate behavior in the workplace. And I think a lot of it is we have these expectations that adults will show up and act like adults. And in a perfect world, in a perfect workplace, that would be great, but we're far removed from that. And so, you create the culture and the employees that you get, right? So you want something different, you've got to create an environment and be intentional about the culture that you're creating so that you can, nurture your employees in the direction that you want. There's I won't think of the who to attribute this to, but it says something along the line that you don't blame the flower, right, for not growing. It's the environment, it's the garden that you create that, if the flower isn't thriving, if it isn't growing, it's not the flower's fault. Right.
I'm going to steal that. That's a great.
I'll look up the actual. There it is an actual quote, and someone wrote it. So, final thoughts.
No, I mean, I mean, I don't want to be redundant, but have clear expectations and communicate them regularly. Those are my final thoughts.
Okay, I like it, and don't leave it with the employees, right, is what I would say. That just adding to what Robert has said, that making sure that everyone in the chain has the tools and the resources and the training, the coaching that they need, right? Everyone needs to have development. It's professional development as part of the program. And so don't promote people, hand them a handbook. Here's how you do performance evaluations. Here's how you approve vacation requests and sign off on timesheets, right? It's more than that. And the more than that is, this is the business of people behavior, human behavior. And getting the best out of people requires effort, right?
Absolutely.
It requires effort. It would be nice if everybody just showed up and was motivated 100% of the time and did everything they were supposed to do. That's not realistic. And you can do the best hiring that you possibly can and things are going to slip through the cracks. So
Mhm.
make sure everyone has what they need, the tools, the resources, the strategies, the support, the encouragement, the empowerment, and then keep doing that, right?
Mhm.
It's not a one and done thing, over and over and over again. So with that, we want to thank you for joining us for this episode of the State of Leadership, Simple and Beyond. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your comments. And Robert, if someone wanted to connect with you, to work with you, how would they go about doing that?
And they can email me at inspireme@roberthilliardcoaching. I return all the emails that come to me, and mostly, unless it's spam. Or they can go to my website, which is roberthilliardcoaching.com, and fill out the form that's there, and let me know what you're struggling with, what challenges you, what goals you have, and we'll put together a custom strategy for you to help you achieve those goals or overcome those challenges.
Awesome. And if you want to connect with me, you can visit me at shiftingintoaction.now.site, shiftingintoaction.now.site. There's a form there. You can request a session with me. Happy to meet with you. Just talk about how I and or Robert can be of value and assistance. And there are a couple of ebooks there that are my gift to you. So again, thank you for joining us. If there's a topic you would like for us to cover in the future, please drop us a line, let us know. And until next time, communicate, communicate, be clear in that communication, and take care.
See you soon.